Let us waste no time on introductions. Unlike most of my videos, I will not be skipping the base coating stage, as today's technique is already taking place, which is the mother color technique. So, what is it and why would you use it? The mother color is a painting technique that uses one color as the basis for all other colors. In other words, we choose a color and add a pinch of it to all our mixes. Enough to where the color is basically the same, but we can tell the hue has slightly changed. But why bother doing this? The mother color can help create harmony and unity, that is, to bring all the colors of our piece closer together. This is especially helpful if you have a small paint collection. We often hear painters talking about cold and warm colors. Even I often like to pick slightly color shifted tones of grey to make my neutral colors more interesting. With the mother color, it doesn't matter if you only count with a single tone for each color. You can make them all work together as if they were meant to go with each other. But it doesn't stop there. It can also help control the mood and the tone of the painting. For example, red as a mother color could represent rage and anger, as well as warmth, while the dark sea blue I'm using leans more towards a cold and more melancholic mood. I picked this comparison in particular as today's character Hades showcases it perfectly during different scenes of the movie Hercules. As I move into the highlights, I'll remind you to clean your brushes after mixing your tones. This will keep them fresh as well as provide you with better control by working the paint only halfway up the brush. While I often try to keep my videos as short as possible, today I'll be showcasing more brushwork than I normally would, as when it came to the painting of this model, I didn't take any shortcuts or use any cheats to get it done fast, but instead enjoy taking my time and working on it in a classical manner, focusing my attention on the color selection. I also approach the painting of the skin using a lot of lines and scratches. This is because the larger surfaces of the model would be very close in hue, so as an extra safety measure to separate them from one another, I use different texture finishes. To paint the black robes, I took a new approach. While I am using the same recipe as in my Secrets to Paint Black video where I mix pastel green into black, which in this case contains my mother color and pushes the tone to a bluish hue, the application of the highlights were done in a volumetric way, where I didn't pick out each fold individually, and instead worked over the overall shape, not caring about the shadows for now. Picking out the edges of the folds would have been easy using the side of my brush, but I will leave that for the final highlight. A black wash mixed from water, black ink and a bit of my mother color will do double duty here. On one hand, pulling on the recesses and pushing them towards a true black tone, providing darkness on the recesses within the areas I highlighted. On the other, the glazing left behind over the highlights will both blend them closer together as well as tune down the color so it doesn't stand out too much. The rocks on the base are probably the most unimportant detail on the model, so I didn't overthink it and simply dry brushed some greenish grays over them. The skin, ropes, stone and smoke clash between themselves, sharing a closer hue, so I made sure to push each of them towards a different tone. The skin towards blue, the ropes towards black, the stones towards green and the smoke I'll aim for a whitish tone. I began the painting of the smoke as with every other element of the model, by incorporating some of my mother color into the base tone, adding small amounts of grey and further on white to highlight it by dry brushing in the opposite direction of the whisk of smoke. This way I make sure paint doesn't get into any recesses. By the time the white began to come in, I dry brushed only the areas facing upwards. This will result in adding more volume to the smoke. Finally, a bit of stippling adds a pinch of texture which helps separate the smoke. While I went from some scratchy lines on the skin, a smooth wash on the ropes and a classic dry brush on the stones, the stippling further separates this element from the rest, by making sure they all have different surface finishes. At this point I have done countless tutorials on how to paint fire, but my method remains the same, starting with an intermediate tone and covering the surface in water. Before taking a lighter one, dilute it to a milky consistency which flows into the recesses, to achieve what I call the water trick. The layer of water present will keep the paint away from the raised details, resulting in an acrylic pin wash. Afterwards, the water trick is repeated, but the application of the water is focused on the bottom half, which would be closer to the source of the flames. And an even lighter tone is pin washed there, which goes no further than where the water was applied. Back to my initial tone, I use the side of my brush to fix any inconsistencies by catching only the raised details. With my darkest tone, I finish off by picking out the tip of the flames. Thank you for watching. I hope you found the ideas helpful and that the painting itself was entertaining to watch. Special thanks also to Loot Studios for sending me this model to paint. I'll link it alongside the rest of the collection in the description.